Morning Year 7s, I'm here to give you a little update, and these videos are the first ones that I'm making, so please bear with me. I am trying to work out the editing software and I am getting a little bit better each time I do them, so please bear with me. So the first thing that we've got to do to get ready for carrot cake cupcakes is make sure that we've got all our equipment ready. So a lot of the times I go through this with you in class and you've got them all on your recipes anyway, but I just want you to get everything ready before we start our practical. So some things that we might forget because they are in the classroom, and that is a towel for drying our hands, a tea towel, and some oven mitts. I have little silicone ones, but whatever you have at home will be fine as long as you've got those. I have some measuring spoons, I have a wooden spoon, a zesting grater, but you can use a normal grater. I have a measuring cup, but you can use a jug. I have a peeler, a knife, and a chopping board. Please remember to put a cloth or something underneath your board to stop it from slipping. I have a grater. I have two large bowls, one for making my mixture in and one for the icing. I've already measured that out. I have my cupcake tray and cases ready, as well as my cooling rack for when it comes out of the oven. I also have a few little bowls for my ingredients. Right, I've also made sure that I have my recipe ready to go and my ingredients ready to go. So I have got 125 grams of light brown sugar, but please feel free to just use normal sugar or caster sugar, that's absolutely fine. I am using light olive oil, but any vegetable oil will do, and you need 125 mils of that. I have 2 large eggs. I have 225 grams of plain flour. I have 1 teaspoon of mixed spice, but again guys, you can substitute that with cinnamon or a quarter teaspoon of nutmeg and add a quarter teaspoon of nutmeg, sorry. Or you can just leave it out completely, that's absolutely fine as well, but carrot cake does taste a little bit better when it's got either cinnamon or mixed spice in it. Then I have some baking soda, just a half a teaspoon of that, and I have half a teaspoon of baking powder. I didn't have any oranges, so I'm using some satsumas, which I will zest, and I will use the juice for the icing sugar. And then I have 300 grams of carrots. Right, I'm also using some cashews because we love nuts in our carrot cake, and I'm also going to use some of those for decorations, but you can either make little carrots out of fondant, or you can use walnuts, you can use pecan nuts, anything that you have at home. Right, now I'm going to get my ingredients ready and prepped before I start. I've peeled the carrot, but now what I want to remind you about is please do not cut that end off the carrot, because that is your little finger hold, and also it's going to help you to not grate your fingers when you're grating the carrot, because that gives you a little piece to hold on to, and that's the little piece we're going to throw away anyway, but it'll keep your fingers safe from the grater. Then please remove the little tip of the root, and please make sure that you have a little bowl for waste or a piece of newspaper or something next to you so that you can get rid of your waste. Please remember that when we grate, graters catch knuckles, so keep your knuckles away from the grater, from the edges, but if you run your hand across like this at a flat angle, the grater won't cut and it won't catch you. So please, when you're grating, please make sure that you keep your fingers out of the way and you grating in a downward motion like that. I'm also going to get the juice out of my satsumas. Please remember that if you don't have a juicer, it's very easy to juice anything with a fork. So like that, cut it in half, fork on the inside, and then squeeze and wiggle the fork. Right, so what we're going to do first is we are going to make sure that we are ready for our practical. So we're going to have our aprons on, we're going to tie up hair, we're going to wash hands, and we're going to make sure that we're prepared like I've showed you. You are going to preheat your oven to 200 degrees C, and you're going to line your muffin tin with your cupcake cases. Now, when you are making an oil cake, which is what we are doing today, carrot cake is most of the time it is an oil cake. There are different recipes out there. You are going to take the sugar, the oil, and the eggs. Please remember that you need to crack your eggs separately into a small little bowl before you add them, just in case you have some shell, but also because if you get a bad egg, you're not adding it to the rest of your mixture and wasting everything, because you can't use anything after that. If you are lucky enough to have one of these electric mixers, then please use them, but it really is not necessary. You can use a wooden spoon. When we make an oil cakes do not like to be beaten too much, so please, all we are doing today is we are combining the mixture. Right, so that's what your mixture looks like. A little bit foamy, but just nicely combined. And now we're going to add our dry ingredients. Right, next we are going to take the flour and we're going to throw that in. Make sure that you've got all your flour. We are going to take our spices and we're going to pop those in. Our baking soda and our baking powder. We're then also going to add in the zest. And the carrots. You can mix the first mixture first, as in all the flour and the dry ingredients, and then add the carrots, but I just do it all in one. Sorry guys, I had to move the camera so that my hand wasn't blocking the camera. So now we are going to gently incorporate the flour, and we are going to do what we call folding in. So you're going to take your spoon under the mixture and flip it over, and you're going to keep doing that until your mixture is combined. Right guys, please don't overmix at this stage. The oil recipe is very much like a muffin, an American muffin recipe. It doesn't like to be stirred and mixed too much because we don't want to, the oil doesn't like it, but also the gluten in the flour doesn't like it. So that's the protein that makes it quite hard and dry. So even if you've got a little bit of flour still, that's absolutely fine. It will bake through and you will not be able to see it. Now I have got some nuts, so I'm going to add those as well, and then I'm going to put it in the cases. Right, now guys, a little tip for you. If you have one of these, it's actually really easy to put your mixture into your muffin cases, but otherwise just a big spoon and a teaspoon is absolutely fine for this process. You are going to divide the mixture as evenly as you can between your 12 cupcake cases. Right, there you have it. They're all in the cupcake cases, and I'm now going to use my oven mitts to put those into the oven for about 10 to 15 minutes, guys. You have to, maybe 15 to 20, depending on your oven. You have to make sure that they are done, and your oven, everybody's oven is different, so it's never an exact amount of time. So the way that you can tell that they're done is when you can start to smell them, when they've got a nice golden brown color on the top, and when you lightly touch your finger on the top of them, it bounces back like a sponge. Right guys, so while those are in the oven, we're going to make the icing. Now I love using the orange juice in the icing sugar to make the icing. You can, if you want to, make some cream cheese icing. You can find a recipe for that on the internet, but I do love the glazed icing with the orange juice, or in my case the clementines, but whatever citrus you have, it is actually very lovely. So please remember guys that when you're making icing, it absorbs water a lot. Now unfortunately my icing absorbed a little bit of water, so it's gone grainy, but with the icing that we're making today, it's not a problem because it will actually just dissolve into the juice. So I'm going to start off with just a little bit of juice, and it's about a tablespoon, and I'm going to start mixing. Now icing sugar has the ability to absorb a lot of liquid, Sorry guys, I meant to say that it has the ability to absorb very little liquid very, very quickly. So please, please, please make sure that you don't use too much, and you add it a little at a time. So I've had about a tablespoon to start off with, and I'm going to add just a little. Can you see that just by adding a tablespoon of the juice, it's almost incorporated all that liquid, and we do not want this too runny. If we have this too runny, it will literally just run off the cupcakes instead of staying on top of the cupcakes where we want it to be. So I've used 2 tablespoons, and I know that I could probably add another half just for the moment. So rather add it slowly, and then I'll come back and show you what it should look like. Right, so I've had to mix mine just a little bit longer just to make sure that I get all the lumps out, but if I leave this until they come out of the oven, all the lumps should have dissolved into the mixture anyway, so anything that I did miss will have disappeared by then. So now you can see, and I added about another, I'd say about another half a tablespoon of liquid, and a lovely color as well, so it gives your icing that slightly orangey color. It's really, really a lovely color. So you want your icing to sort of pour but not run, so sort of drip pour off your spoon, and that is the correct consistency that you want. You can see that you'll be able to smooth it out, and it will take a while for it to actually smooth and become flat again. Hi guys, now just for the last, you can see they're out of the oven, and they're nice and brown, and they're done. Please don't over bake them, because over baking will also make them dry. So as soon as you touch them and they spring back, they'll still be softer. These have been cooling, so they've formed a crust on the outside. But when they come out of the oven, they bounce back like a little sponge. Don't try not to bake them too much. You have to wait until they cool before you put the icing sugar on. If you put the icing sugar on when they're warm, the icing sugar will just simply melt into the cake. Now again, I have one of these little ice cream scoops, but it's a small one, and I just use that to dollop a bit onto each, and then I use a teaspoon, but you can use a teaspoon for everything. I just literally smooth out the top just a little, and it will run to cover more of the cupcake, and then put your decoration on the top. And in this case I'm using some cashew nuts, but I don't like the look of that one. I'm just going to use another one. Alright, can you see it's spreading to the edge? Right, so don't do that while it's warm, and just fix it a little if you want to. Guys, have fun, and I hope to be able to do a live lesson soon, but we do still need to do some work before we do that. So keep well, keep safe, and keep baking.